Welcome back to another edition of the edition. It's an episode of the Audible Angle. Might have solved the overheating problem by switching a tire for this episode and going with a little bit of more of a fishing shirt, a little bit of my normal look. Keep it open, keep it loose, stay fresh out there, my friends. Urbs, you got a hat on today.
Yeah, baby. I take notice. Last episode, you kind of called me out, didn't call me a hat guy. Along with my shoe game, my hat game, I do believe is strong. It just isn't as often, right? My shoe game is every day. My hat game is maybe once a week, once every 2.
My shoe game got restricted to Brooks running shoes a long time ago, and I bought so many. It's been years since I bought any. I still have unopened, humble brag, brand new shoes under the bed that I have to get through. I had to finally cut myself off so that I could get to a place where I could buy some more, but I got to wear through them at least a little bit. Getting pretty close to getting back in the game on shoe purchases. Is this too many buttons undone? This would be my normal day.
No. I like it. It's kind of giving me Indiana Jones kind of look. It gives me some Indiana Jones from the 80s look. I like it. Fits. I mean, it is. I'll be honest. I don't know where you're coming from, but I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I think you're in the frozen tundra just across the border. And I don't understand why it's 150 degrees in my office right now. Every time we do an episode, the temperature just drives. And I've got the door open. I don't have the fan on. Maybe the fan needs to go on, but I agree. It's a little hot.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either because I do close the door to keep distractions down, but it definitely heats up. And then in the morning when I come down here, I'll be looking for definitely long sleeves to stay warm. Not blankets is what I was gonna say is not blankets. We are looking ahead to Saturday night. And, for those that aren't watching and checking out the wardrobe, paint us a picture. Well, Irby was just airboxing. Obviously, are you suggesting we need to cover Anthony Joshua versus, I think, Jake Paul coming up, Friday night? Going to be laying down the big bucks to watch that pay-per-view?
Yeah, we can skip that pay-per-view. I think I get it through one of my apps. If I try to dig in, I think I get it through one of the apps. I'm not sure, but maybe I'm not subscribing to that. I will be fully watching what we need to dive into. And this is kind of Audible Angle new territory. We don't just usually handle one item on an episode. And we are granted, there will be several tangents that we will go on, which is typical. But really, our pre-production meeting was very simple. Packers,
keep
Bears,
it focused.
Part 2.
Try to keep it focused. Try to keep it under an hour, which almost seems impossible. These things are not supposed to be this long. But, content is king. Feel free to clip this yourselves and send out shorts of a couple jagoffs. And I will say to, some of our critics out there, if you want guys telling, regular media guys telling you the standard company line, go ahead, listen to that. And I do. I've said it a number of times, I haven't listened to much this week, but, Pack a Day podcast, some of the other ones out there. Go ahead and listen to that stuff. If you can still catch Bill Jarts on a news segment, a sports segment, that's still a thing. AY, Bill Jarts Sports, George Graffis on weather.
You got her. Still it.
Got her.
Still
it.
All right. Bill Jarts is the voice of the Packers on game day. Bill Jarts. That's your guy.
Wow.
First down, Packers.
That's Bill Jarts?
That's Bill Jarts.
Yeah. Maybe one of us should have gone with a fake name. Little Bill Jarts intel there. He doesn't go by Bill Jarts anymore, does he?
Oh, yeah, he does.
Oh, okay. Fake name. But we love him all the same. We still love him, even though that's not his actual name.
Yeah, we could be whoever we want to be, but we're going to be us today.
I might be Dill Jarts. Dill Jarts today. That's how focused we are going to be on the Packers.
All right, Dill Jarts, take her away. Give us a first look. Give us a thought. Give us a leading edge on this Saturday. I mean, it's gonna be. I'm gonna say this Sunday about a billion times today, but Saturday night lights. Packers Bears at Soldier
Well,
Field.
as I mentioned, the lead up to the last game was a little unsatisfactory as far as getting a little too excited, a little too early. Won't be doing that again. Saturday, almost did it myself. The lead up to the game will probably be pretty docile. Don't have any plans yet. It is a possibility that I get together with some people, but you're kind of running into, I know, nephews that I watch the games with quite a bit. They're getting into like family Christmas time and stuff, so it's already that time of year. It could be solitude, Fortress of Solitude action, which frankly I enjoy very much. I don't mind that at all. Sit right in this same dumb chair that I sit in all day for work, and I'll look at this. There'll only be one game on at a time, but there'll probably be, I should check the schedule, college something. There'll be something else on the secondary TV. We got to harken back to our first lead up to the Bears Packers game in Lambeau. And really our wrap on that one was it took, to me, if I'm again, we're going to be optimists here. Generally, Urbs can get a little haywire with fire everybody kind of shit sometimes. But in reality, at the end of that game, that was a fun game to watch in a downpour at Epcot Center. But the Bears you still leave feeling a lot of shit had to go their way. The razor thin reviews went their way. Maybe we'll get a holding call because now it's not Parsons where you're just like, it's not a challenge if you're going to call it every play. It's if they hold Rashawn Gary and Colby Wooden a total of 3 times, they might, maybe they'll call 2 of them because it'll be the only 3 times they see it. But the Bears, as much as Bears apologists might not want to believe it, they had some breaks that game and still came up short. Packers injury situations, still unclear who we're all going to have. The Bears have injury situations too, and some of it is fairly key with Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. Didn't practice, but he might be able to play. In any case, Odunze didn't play the first game, but, there's important players on both sides. And we probably won't know till Thursday or Friday exactly who's going to be there. I'm going to remain optimistic. It's Hafley's got to earn it now. I think he earned it last year, actually. If you break down a lot of the stats, boy, the offense or the defense has been more fun this year, felt better, felt more secure. The numbers aren't that far off from last year, and it's damn near the same personnel without Parsons now.
Let me ask you this though, and I like the first topic being the defense. Here's my thoughts on the defense. Doesn't it feel like we can be doing more with what we have? Does it seem like we're only in neutral, first gear? There's got to be another level to this, right? There's got to be at some point you feel that maybe weeks 1 through 6, you're kind of feeling things out. There's a couple of new guys, Evan Williams is there, we've got some new guys that do they really understand the process? But now we're in week 15, Dilly. Right? So we've got to kind of like downshift in and hit the accelerator and do some things we haven't done 1 through 14 because quite frankly everybody's got tape, everybody's watching. But does it feel to you, are you feeling the same thing, that the defense just kind of feels, dare I say, vanilla? It's a vanilla defense.
I don't think you're necessarily wrong to say vanilla. I think they did things. They moved Micah around the formation a lot, coming up the middle, but a lot of it was Micah-centric. I think what we talked about in early episodes, longtime listeners will recall this, of course. We talked about being on, kind of the edge of learning to play with a really good defense, and why take risks. Learning how to understand if your pass rush is going to get there, get your defensive backs, a little overdose on Diet Coke maybe. Get your defensive backs to take more risks on short routes and that sort of thing. This isn't exactly the best game scenario for that because of Ben Johnson's offense and a lot of, we'll probably talk about it a lot pre-game and post-game, this running, crisscrossing tight ends and guys running free. You have to play smart back there. But to shorten this up a little bit, I think what happens now without Parsons, you have to dial up the risk. You have to take risk. And I really think if things go well, I think what you'll see is, if you remember Edgerrin Cooper ascending last year into, wow, this guy can rush a passer, this guy is everywhere, this guy's making plays. I think you have to unleash Edgerrin Cooper. And Quay Walker also has shown flashes of great pass rushing. And if you want to be an ultimate optimist, we would have gotten there eventually. Especially, let's say Parsons is healthy, we still lose the game to Denver. It's getting into crunch time, it's getting into playoffs. All of a sudden, and you saw it a little bit already. Parsons dropped sometimes. He wasn't always rushing. And so then you're bringing other guys, which I would say a little bit at the end of the game, we did see the inside linebackers blitzing a little bit more. But you'll have that packed into the game plan now. I think risk has to go up, and you're just forced to do that because of personnel. And that includes against the run. And the defense now, Love and the rest of the defense, they have to really lock it in on completing the plays that are there. You can't, no more picks bouncing off hands. If you're going to win games and go on a run, you got to seal the deal on a higher percentage of those opportunities, because you're going to be not as good at just knowing, well, we're going to have them in 3rd and long again here shortly. It's going to be, when the play is there, you got to make it, and you might have to get creative with the play calls to make a play happen.
I'll subscribe to that. I will 100% buy in, and I've been screaming it from the highest hill I can here in Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is Street Hill. So I've been up there. I've been screaming. That's kind of where I like to podcast from. Best shot, if you will, for our listeners to get in with a different wavelength. I'm going to take a different speed. I agree. Take chances. But I do think I hearken back to the second half of that first Bears game, and we saw Williams rolling out. And that's the only thing that worked in the second half, and I think you're going to see a heavy dose of that. And why wouldn't you? And you also saw it with the Bears game this last week when the Packers were playing the Broncos the game before. And I know that you maybe been overserved during that game, but you'd probably remember that happening, that Williams was doing that again, right? They're doing that. And I think, and I'm going to argue, let's be honest, the Packers are not depleted at defensive end. They still have Luke Van Ness. They still have Ngabari. They still have Rashawn Gary. All right. And I believe they also have one more behind Rashawn Gary as well. So they have backups in both positions, and they're also arguably very serviceable. But what they aren't is chase down ends. Okay, they're not gonna win in any races to the edge, and we've seen that Rashawn Gary can't do it. Luke Van Ness, Ngabari is probably the fastest of the three. But I'm gonna say this, and if I'm Hafley, we're going to have more of what you talked about to stop that run game, is that space, that the correct spacing, and playing in that. And I don't see us getting beat on the edges as much this Saturday night as we did in the second half of the game, because we were selling out interior, right? Like, we were going interior and we're coming down the line. And now Parsons made a lot of plays that way. And arguably Ngabari won the game for us against the Bears by doing that on that rushing on the 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1, right? And then the turnover happened. But so we will do that at times when it's necessary. But I think by and large, our defensive ends or those guys playing on the edge will keep that containment. And I think that should be primary. Maybe a step forward. The problem with that, here's the primary problem. We got to have more out of Valentine. We got to have Nixon. Those two cannot play the way they did against the second half against the Broncos. That's a fact. And that is a fact. And I think that also goes into Evan Williams needs to be healthy. Let's sprinkle a little healthy juice. Let's get him a little good juju going on there for him. And I don't mean the old wide receiver for the Chiefs. I mean the old good juju that we need. But I think there's positivity there, but I 100% agree. Hafley, let's earn it. Let's send numbers. Let's put our safety who led the league last year in interceptions. Let's put him in positions to do that. And that's one-on-one options. That's why he did it last year, is he had a lot of one-on-ones. This year, up to this point, he has been playing center field. He has literally been playing Lorenzo Cain for the Brewers, just catching fly balls. That's all he's been doing.
You bring up the exact point I was going to bring up, and I wanted to peek back, but it would have taken too long on the phone to get back to more examples. But the game that really sticks out is the Kyler Murray Cardinals game last year, where, you were almost left uncertain as to how good our pass rush was, because we absolutely played a contain rush principles. We were trying to contain them, and I do think, especially, we got left here. We got the Bears, we got the Ravens, and we got the Vikings. And frankly, McCarthy moves around pretty good. We're probably going to see more of that than we care to see, where we might not get sacks from this might not be Rashawn Gary blows things up and gets 7 sacks down the stretch here. It's going to be contain rush. And frankly, I don't think that does Caleb Williams many favors. With Parsons in there, you just believe you're going to get home. You're going to cause so much chaos that it's worth it to do that. Without him, I think you're going to see, and it should be something the players are used to, that kind of contain rush, keep the pocket, and then when you do need the pressure, it's going to come from a linebacker, the Walker and Cooper mugging the A-gap, as they like to say. And one of them comes, one of them doesn't. You play some other games on the defense line to generate pressure. The other guy that you might have been thinking of is Brenton Cox, who his window's open to return. LaFleur said he's looking good, or he has been looking good. And in reality, he had meaningful pass rush snaps last year. So the cupboard isn't completely empty. That's back. We'll see. It's been up and down with him. You assume he's a little bit healthier because he played some, got through it, didn't get dinged again. So hopefully he's back closer to full strength. Him and Gary are both bull rush guys, kind of, straight ahead. But you're squeezing them. Then you're containing, but you're squeezing the pocket a little bit. And hopefully that works from a Packer fan perspective. And you're also right on the secondary. That's part of where you take less risk on the pass rush and a little more risk with your safeties. And frankly, you're probably going to have to take more risk with those guys to stop the run as well. I kind of liked this Riley guy. He didn't play a ton against Denver. They signed another defensive tackle, and there's something weird there. They claimed him off waivers, but it was after they had already brought on Riley, and they had to keep Riley active for 3 weeks. So there's a little uncertainty on who they actually prefer to play. It hasn't been Stackhouse, that much we know, but that could change too, where you just gotta go big and at the interior tackle positions and have Stackhouse and Riley, or Riley and this other guy active to help Wooden out. Carl Brooks is, he's played some good ball for us. A little bit more of a pass rusher, a little bit smaller. But the cupboard isn't bare. Um, the Bears are tough,
Yeah,
and
but I always try to think of, when you try to beat another team, you look at where their weaknesses are, and we have to. The reason, and why are they rolling Williams out? They're rolling Williams out to give more time for the routes to mature, right? And that's, if you can, I mean, seconds matter in that scenario. And if you can keep him combined and actually worried about the rush, because it was predictable, right? He knew, and it was a predictable answer. I'm always rolling right, so I don't even have to think about the front five. That's what that, and they're simplifying the offense for not a smart quarterback. That's what they're doing. They're not making him make all of the reads because they give him only half a field to worry about. He's only has two routes to worry about. Now the Packers don't know that because they don't know which side he's going to roll to on each play. So you have to guard all the routes, and that's where the advantage goes back to the Bears. But if you can keep him in and make him a pocket passer, which he is not, he is absolutely not a pocket passer. He wants to run. Now, we will give up 6-7 yard gains through the middle of the interior when he sees that if those linebackers go too deep, which they will to protect underneath. But I'm okay with that, right? Because they're not gonna have those big 3rd and 17 gains, and we'll get off the field. Get off the field. And that's one thing that I think there's an advantage there. And I'm probably looking at this. I mean, I know our listeners are saying, well, Urban, holy shit, you turned a corner. Glass is half full, huh, Pally? But the fact of the
well,
matter is, we still have that's how you win, and we have to win 3 more games.
yeah, I mean, it's day goes by, you feel a little better, a little closer to kickoff. Yeah, I just am thinking of the best way to describe it is you got to squeeze the pocket and not you might not get sacks. You don't want to. He bailed quick in the first game. He's bailing quick because he knew he only had 2.5 seconds, and frankly, that's a way for bigger plays to happen. Guys have to cover longer, but if you squeeze the pocket and uh, not necessarily get a sack, and he's got to scramble kind of more up the middle, um, you know, that's a 3 yard gain and probably tackled, probably get some sacks depending on how well the interior linemen are playing. And he won't have. Well, again, we'll see. Maybe if he still just straight bails, it's going to be a chase. Gary did okay chasing him, but it's a different kind of chase for sure because he's going to feel like he can roll and then set up and throw. But there's different things you can do as defensive ends where you're getting, and what they really did is they stopped their pass rush at the level of the quarterback's drop back. You're not ever really running past him. So if if he's still bailing, he's still bailing with depth. He can't step up and then out. He's got to keep gaining depth, and you can keep gaining depth with your rush, and you might not get to him, but you're pushing him back to where he's thrown from 15 yards deep instead of coming up and out, and it's a lot more of a run or pass threat. We're probably going to have to sell out a little bit more to stop the run. It worried me the first game, worries me this game, it worried me in the second half last game. But I'll tell you what, the Bears have had one strong blowout win, and it was last week against the Browns. And at some point, they figured out, like we figured out against the Vikings that day. Now, shout out to Vikings fans, of which there are not many. You guys looked a little better lately, so I am going to phrase that saying the Vikings that showed up that day had no business moving the ball or scoring points. The Browns that showed up with Shador, they had no business moving the ball. They couldn't run, they couldn't pass, and they couldn't hang on to the ball. So that maybe affected how that game looked. If you look at the rest of the Bears schedule, if they were just running it down people's throats consistently all year, every game, then, you know, they'd only have one loss and we'd be talking wild card only rather than reascending to the top of the division. I'm checking the Bears' schedule to fact check myself. I mean, they had the prove it game against the Eagles, then lost, then beat the Browns. Before that, they crushed the Bengals with Flacco and no defense. Other than that, they haven't had a defining win. I mean, Eagles, we don't really know what the Eagles are. So the Bears are, dare I say, who we thought they were. And we'll see if we let them off the hook or not. And it's going to be tight. I do. Any more thoughts on Bears offense versus the Packers defense?
I think it's a run first offense, and it has been a run first offense. But I think the Packers have proven that they can. I mean, do you want to see a game like the Panthers where they get 4, they get 3, and then a dump down pass for first down? I don't know if the Packer fan wants to see that, but I would take our chances long term against the Bears because I don't think the Bears defense is the same as the Panthers defense. How about I put it that way? I don't think they're healthy enough to stop us. I think our offense is better. We've learned some things. The Bears are good, quite frankly, are going to have to score 28 or more to beat us. I mean, we've proven that in most games. There's an argument there with I think we were probably the last game that the Eagles were something, and then some shit went wrong. I think it's probably in the locker room for the Eagles. They haven't been the same. I mean, boy, oh boy, but I don't have a lot of concerns other than Monangai and Swift, and if they can dominate us there, and really Williams is probably their third best rusher, like that's in maybe even second best rusher. If you take Monangai out of there, because Swift has really turned it on, so I think you have to look at Williams as more as of a rush first quarterback. That's what he has been the last 4 years. Um, do they scare you? No. Um,
I just laugh because I don't think he's. Isn't this his second year, or is it his third year?
I think it's his third year.
It hasn't been
But he was a
4.
rush first quarterback. He was a rush first quarterback in college as well. I mean, he didn't chuck the ball around. He probably chucked it around a little bit more there in
I mean,
college than he does now. But
he's got a ton of arm talent. It's just not consistent yet. And I've been a long time believer, as I hate to say it, in Caleb Williams being potentially a big problem. And he's a bigger problem this year. And some guys you can say for years that if they just got a little more consistent, if Jameis Winston pulled off with a few fewer interceptions, the guy'd be the greatest quarterback in the history of the game.
hey, if JJ McCarthy played better, the Vikings would be better, right? I
They'd
mean
be
that
in the
you could.
playoff hunt.
Yeah, so but JJ McCarthy is who he is, right? He's a run first quarterback too. Like he's not. I mean, his accuracy is horseshit. No, he only has 1 year. I get it, fine. So I appreciate the fact check there with Williams, but for the last 3 years, and we're almost done with year 3, he's not a pocket passer. He's not. He'll run first, and there's an argument out there that they want to make sure that when he runs, he looks to throw on the run, right? We heard that early in the year. Like that's what the coaches, that's what his new head coach is hoping he does is you get out of the pocket and then you look to throw. Okay, that's fine. That actually gains us if we can actually guard a guy. Like, but that does play against our weakness. Let's talk about our weakness. What worries me, Dilly, is there's wide receivers that are running unchecked after 3 seconds and our guys just can't. Valentine isn't able to stay with them. Nixon makes 2 crucial-ish errors in the Broncos game. Yeah, I get it, Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is a great quarterback. He scares me way more long term than what Caleb Williams does. Caleb Williams is a run first quarterback. Bo Nix is a pocket passer that has the ability to get out of the pocket and make very good throws. Now, somebody will argue and say that touchdown that Caleb Williams threw against the Packers in the first one, where he threaded the needle, was a great throw. Wrong. That's where Nixon should just knock that down and stop trying to intercept it. Knock it down, live to play another day.
I know you've been down on our cornerback play quite a bit. I will say there are definitely some consistency issues. I mean, there's times, and maybe it's deception by the offense. You never know what they were expecting in the game plan early in the week versus what they're seeing on the field. I think what would balance out our feelings on the cornerbacks greatly and will need to happen if we're going to sustain the trajectory that we all hoped for after 2 weeks of football. They have to complete their game-changing plays. Now, Nixon, in dramatic fashion did it last game against the Bears. But Valentine you can balance out giving up some plays and some penalties if you make, 1.5 picks a week as a
True.
tandem, or heaven forbid, 2, because there's a couple that hit you in the hands. So if you complete some of those, and it's time to start doing that, we could be singing a different tune on, man, they're a little hit or miss, but the hits are hits, not, well, it's kind of nice. It still counts as a pass breakup, but it banged off your hands. I'm going to harken back to some old Aaron Rodgers era football, some old Joe Barry Packers football. The biggest key to our defense this year or this week and the rest of the year is going to be the offense. The offense, just like I said, Caleb Williams, if he's ever gets more accurate, he's going to be a real problem. Bears defense is kind of the same thing. If they're ever fully healthy for a sustained period of time, they could be pretty good. But they haven't been, and we don't know who's going to play for them come Saturday. And it might not be the same guys after a quarter of play as at the start of the game. Kyler Gordon, I think, was supposed to play. There's been games where he's going to play and then he's out. Odunze, even, obviously not a defender, but he did the old hurt during the warm-ups thing. I think Kyler Gordon did a hammy in warm-ups or very early recently. So we'll see on the Bears. I just think the good version of the Packers offense with intermediate passing and, the run game, I'm not even going to be that optimistic about. And we're banged up. They just have to assert dominance on offense. And these teams, like you could say the Cleveland game, the Carolina game, whichever other one, even the Eagles game, because they're so dysfunctional. If we applied more pressure with our offense, these teams can't continue to play like that. If you want to get the Bears out of thinking they're going to run, I mean, they stuck with it. Hats off to them in the second half. They're down 14-3, and they still ran it down your throat. And we answered every time, but we have to ramp it up just a tick more than that. We scored on the last drive of the first half to make it 14. You get 14-3 in the first quarter, and then start tacking on field goals every time you touch the ball. I think our offense is good enough, and frankly, it was damn near good enough, except for the last 3 drives against the Broncos, where you just put that other team in that feeling of, yeah, we can maybe pound the rock, but we can't afford to go on 10-play drives because we're going to run out of time because they score every time they touch the ball.
Damn it, Dilly, you've led me right in. And you know what? It can't be an Audible Angle episode, podcast, without me going right after one man. And here's the deal. You've led me right into it. You brought me right there. And it's all you've said, what you just said in 7 minutes, very eloquently. I will say it in very short worded sentence. The Green Bay Packers need a killer attitude. And it's been plaguing them all season long. And it's not for lack of fucking weapons. It's not for lack of weapons. It's play calling. If we get up, you're absolutely right. If we're up 14-3, get to 21. If we're up 14-3, get to 17, get to 24. If we're up 14-3, you don't let them back in the goddamn game. Finish it. Finish it in the third quarter. We haven't seen it all year. Through 14 bloody weeks, we haven't seen a killer instinct, and that starts with one guy, the guy that shields his mouth with a goddamn play sheet in his hand, and that's Matt flippin' LaFleur. Play call to finish the other team instead of keeping them in it and calling timeouts on offense and calling timeouts on defense. Holy shit. Game management needs to improve, and I'm tired of it. And you led me right into it. I came on this episode today and said, Irby, don't blow your top. Don't blow your top. It's a nice Green Bay Soccer hat. And you went right there.
I'll tell you what it sounds like you're saying. To me, it sounds like you're saying you get up 9 in the second half, fucking chuck one deep to Watson. He's fucking burning everybody. He's playing out of his mind. Chuck it deep.
You're wrong, because you know what you're doing right there? You're coaching the Alloway Buccaneers U14 men's or boys football team. That's what you're doing. That's a play that Rod Dillenberg calls because he hasn't been there. That's what I'm talking about. We need you to be a professional, Matt LaFleur, and call the outs, the 8-yard outs that's worked for 2 straight quarters that got us up by 9. That's what I'm talking about. Don't listen to the pundits and who say that you're too conservative, and you're like, I'll show you conservative. I'll throw it deep to Matt Golden or Bo Melton because it worked once. Bo Melton caught that ball because the defense sucks. That's why he caught that ball.
I will say keep taking shots. That's my point of view. You bring up Golden. Golden has an opportunity to be clutch. Wicks, everybody, even if Watson plays, I think we're going to see more of these guys, Reed, Golden, because I don't think you're going to bang your head against the Bears front line up and down the field. It's just not who we really are. A lot of people will argue with that. They think we are a run-first team. I think, and hey, maybe it took a shocking injury. I think this forces the hand for a team that actually wants to be that team. I think they want to open up the offense. I think they need to open up the offense. I think you want me on that wall.
Yes.
Under the blanket of defensive protection that Parsons so conveniently provided for us, we perhaps cowered a little bit offensively, and that's kind of what I mentioned earlier about figuring out the team. And now we're at the precipice. We're at the turn of the tides. I'm trying to think of my correct Lord of the Rings line, either from Aragorn or Gandalf. It's the turn of the tides. And I think the Packers have it in them. I think LaFleur has it in them. And if the thing about this, which we're potentially, I'm an optimist, but we have to potentially keep our wits about us, is it's hard to flip the switch. I think they want to flip the switch. I think he wants to play how they did against Detroit. I think that's what LaFleur wants. And the tough part might be, if we win this week, kind of like I said, of course, if we clinch this week, it changes the game a lot. You have a lot more cushion to work with. Even if we just win and the Lions don't, that still opens a lot of doors for us. But the problem as a Packer fan can be, and it happened in games last year, it's happened in a couple games over the years, you get a couple of dropsies, you get the dropsies from the receivers, you get shit like that, you might get your ass kicked.
Yeah, and I don't see the Bears doing that to us unless they get up 7-14 nothing, because then they're just going to run us right over. We don't have an answer for it, so we have to stay out of that. But am I reading between the lines that you call yourself an optimist, which I agree, and I think almost, and I may be and this will piss you off. I think at some point you're kind of a delusional optimist, because I think I think you're looking at the wrong things. And I'm not afraid to say it. I don't think I'm a pessimist. I think I'm more of a realist, and I'm fine with you coming back and saying you're a delusional realist. That's fine. But do I hear you saying that Matt LaFleur is actually trying to be conservative, that naturally he's that guy that wants to be a gunslinger, and he's forcing himself in the last 14 weeks to be conservative and to go to a running. I'm forcing myself to run 3 times and kick and punt it. I mean, is that really what you're going after here? And I, because I'd okay. That's another angle, and that's what we're here for. We're looking for audible angles. We haven't thrown the audible, and this is our second episode. We don't have an audible, so go ahead and throw it if you want. Call it out, but I'd like to see the other angle.
Every team wants to run the ball. That's for sure. It's pretty indisputable that, especially with Love as quarterback, because he's consistently had some of the it's the ADOT average depth of throw. He's consistently up there. He wants to be able to run the ball just like everybody does. He'd love to establish a run. He's perhaps at times overcommitted to establishing the run, but he wants to chuck it deep. It's run game and then play action or no play action. Our guys run more deep dig routes than I would think anybody in the league. Those plays, there was a point with Love where I felt better in 3rd and 12 than I did in 3rd and 2 because you just kind of knew there's going to be a deep in cut and it's going to be there. I think he wants to play deep ball. He likes to get chunk plays. He's a chunk play guy. And I think a big part of this year, consternation as fans, was getting repetitive, is learning to play with a defense he trusted. And that was different. Now, I was going to say difficult. I don't think that's difficult. I think it's different. When you have extreme confidence that, your bank account or your investments are going to rise 8% a year and you have a chunk, it's hard to take all that money out and maybe make 25%. It gets tough. If you're broke, you're not making any money, it's easier to take a big risk. And I'm a big part of the problem. Comfortable job, comfortable living, don't take any big risks. And now with the defensive uncertainty, I think he gets to unleash a little bit.
And why I think you're comfortable, I want to pull a point that you made, that you do feel more comfortable at 3rd and 12 than you do 3rd and 2. 2 points to that. I think the
Because we're
Packers
going to pass for sure.
well, yeah, and I want to go beyond that. 3rd and 2 is an obvious run play, and we do everything that's obvious. I mean, our play calling is everything that's obvious. Very few times do we not do what's obvious. There's 80,000 people in the stands that know we're running right tackle on 3rd and 1. And we're doing that. Because why would we do play action and try to get Musgrave on a little scrape route, right? But to my point on 3rd and 12, even against the Vikings, even against some of the teams that like to, the Lions, who like to blitz on 3rd and 12 and make it go fast, every throw that Love makes is comfortable off of his back foot. Even when he can step into it, he doesn't. His motion, his throwing motion, is naturally off of his back foot, even with no people in his face. So that 3rd and 12, he gives himself an extra half second for that receiver to get open because he throws off the back foot. That rush that would be on a traditional Brady pocket thrower, some of the excuse me, some of the guys in the league that are pocket passers and need to step through, Jordan Love isn't that. Jordan Love throws off his back foot, so I think it buys him a little bit of time, and that buys the receiver some time to get open and get the separation that you need to get a 3rd down play. And you could rewind some plays and just look at it. I mean, he's throwing off his back foot almost 85% of the time. He just doesn't step through because it's more comfortable to him for whatever reason. And maybe that's probably the little bit of his Rodgers tutelage there, because Rodgers did the same thing. Damn near Rodgers threw with both feet off the fucking ground half the time.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Love had a little bit of that, and if you go back far enough, Favre had some of that too. It's a little bit of a tradition. If you go all the way back in history, early on in Love's era, he overthrew a lot of balls, and I think part of it was he adapted a little bit. And yeah, he always had it in the tank, but he adapted to it a little bit by that just takes a little bit off. Instead of regulating his arm strength, he regulates his ball speed with his body, with his lower
Momentum.
body, and
Momentum,
it
I
takes
agree.
it's pretty damn scary sometimes. I will go back to say Tom Brady, when he was calling the game, seemed to love it. I think he called it the three ball, as a type of deep throw, and he said they're great, and he seemed to get excited by them. You would like to see him uncork the laser, which he does at times. He does have the laser that he can uncork, but I think on the reason why some of the run of the mill throws are back footish and look a little lobby is early on he was overthrowing Watson all the time, and he'd airmail it by 2 feet, and he just to take something off, he changed his lower body mechanics. Now that's not coming from a football mastermind, but that seemed to be part of it.
What do we need to do, Dilly, to win? What do the Packers need to do? What are the things? I mean, we talked about what we're afraid about for the Bears, but and I know you touched on it. I think it's all about our offense. But what part of the where do you feel comfortable, and go by what's your game plan here to beat the Bears, and how do you do that? What do the Packers need to do to make sure that they keep this thing to go off the rails? Because quite frankly, the Broncos game went off the rails. That second half was off the rails. It was uncomfortable. It was out of control. There was nothing we could do. I will blame Halfley as much as I will blame LaFleur. LaFleur started the fire, and Halfley wasn't able to put the blankets on the fire, which he needs to do. But what do we have to do so it doesn't get into panic zone? I mean, that was a panic stunk of panic and desperation in the second half. That's not where the Packers are good. So what do we have to do?
I mean, the dumb answer is stop the run, which will modify to say contain the run, do the things we already talked about on defense, limit the run, contain the quarterback in the pocket, squeeze the pocket, don't destroy the pocket, unless you're going to sack. If you're trying to sack them, you have to complete the sack. You can't run past them, can't fall to the ground.
Slippery.
More strategically on defense, you got to get creative with primarily Edgerrin Cooper, and just depending on how he's feeling, Quay Walker. I love watching some Quay Walker up the gut, destroy a running back. Do that. That might slow down the run game a little bit. Just say, your goal on this play is punish the running back. Get those guys tired of stepping up in pass pro. But the number one thing is continuously move the ball and score. Relentlessly attack on offense and make the Bears try to keep up and affect their game plan with pressure. Now, I will say, as I already alluded to, Ben Johnson showed a lot of stick-to-itiveness in the first game of not getting out of the game plan, because that game was on the precipice of getting completely out of control for the Bears. And they managed to hang on. And then, I mean, they put together 2 drives, really 3 drives in the second half. The last one didn't get completed, but you have to get them in a situation where you're making them do high risk things because they feel like they can't punt the ball. They got to go for it on 4th and 3 at the 43. And then when that happens, guarantee you get points. I feel better. Hey, one good thing of course, it was Denver, but kicking game seems to be back on track the last couple of weeks.
Just gonna ask you, is that a mirage? I mean, is that a mirage? Does he go back into cold weather and not 60 degrees and ideal temperatures in December out in Denver, where he feels very comfortable? By the way, that was where most of his career was played. Is that a mirage? Can we expect him to be making? I mean, there was no kick in doubt on Sunday. And we
No, I think McManus is a pro, and I think he's back. I think the whole injury thing was just a weird deal, and it created probably just some general uncertainty when you have the replacement kicker kicking kind of well, and when is this guy ready to be back? Do we really want two guys on the active roster? There's just ideally you probably would have had McManus not kick for one more week, and he wouldn't have struggled when he came back. Is probably my best answer, because he showed it last year. I'm not worried about kicking game. He doesn't have 65 yards in it like some of these guys do, but if you just, it's such a weird game of not that we're going to break down kicking for 2 hours, but it is just a weird thing of when you rewatch a game, especially that Eagles game was the hardest one to rewatch really for both teams, because you'd swear the whole game was played near or in the other team's territory. And where the kickoffs come out to so often now, it feels like 2 first downs, and you're feeling like, how do we not score on this drive? It seems almost impossible.
Does the NFL look at that in the offseason? Does the NFL look at that kickoff? I mean, for all intents and purposes, it fixed the kickoff, but I think it ruined the game a little bit. Don't you? I mean, there's an angle there where it's like, man, we don't get outside of punting, you don't get a 90-yard drive anymore. It's 40 yards. 40 yards.
Yeah, I think they tweaked it to the point where nobody did any kick returns. So I understand trying to do that. Maybe they extend, because what's a landing zone? 20 to the goal line is the preferred landing zone for kickers to encourage returns. Maybe they do something. Maybe they move the two lines of teams up a little bit and make it the 25 to the goal line. It seems like I wouldn't be against a tweak, because I think it's very punishing to almost always get the ball at the 35-yard line.
Yeah, if you kick it in the end zone, you're screwed. And even if you kick it to the end line and it doesn't go to the end zone, you're still getting it at the 30, because the guys can't get down there until the 25. Like, seriously, they're not hitting that guy until he gets to the 25, and a great run kickoff coverage is like the 20-yard line, which is like, come on.
Yeah, if you hold them to the 20, like they did something wrong, like bobbled the ball or whatever. Yeah. So it's, I suppose I know we don't have the internet, but if it's average starting position has to be around the 30 or further.
It seems like that's when the first contact is being made, is at the 30, 25-yard line for sure.
We walked all the way around to maybe an unseen key, he's just been great. We've had years where we had to talk about this position a lot, and I'm glad we're not there now. But punter, how great is our punter? Talk about
he's great. He's great. I mean, when you can ask your punter to be a good punter, and then in one game you're like lead in passing, right? Like, but yeah, I think our punter does what he needs to do. He's got a 55-yarder in him, but he doesn't have a lot of 20 yards. Like, he doesn't have, there's not a bad kick in the arsenal, really. I mean, his bad kicks are 35, 40 yards, which is brilliant, because he's got a 55, 60-yarder in him every third kick.
Yeah, shit. I don't even know if he's had a bad, something you really categorize as a bad punt in quite some time. So, maybe we're just saying worst case scenario, pin him deep if you can. If you're not scoring, and heaven forbid we go an episode without talking about your guy, assistant head coach Rich Bisaccia.
Fuck, man, is he around next year? We've got to find a special teams guy, right? Like, I mean, I almost feel like we're one step away from having the Steelers special teams guy who just chaws on the fucking gum. I mean, he's been on the Steelers for 79 years, and he's 78 years old. Like, is this guy still upright? And he seems to be fairly effective. I don't know. Maybe he's got better personnel than we do. Maybe our shitty player. Maybe we got a shitty special teams. I don't know.
Well,
I think
I'll tell you what.
Rich Bisaccia needs to go.
all we can say is I don't recall thinking or talking much about special teams for the last couple of weeks. I think McManus had what we just talked about, that kickoff and in the zone, out of the zone, whatever shit. Whether or not that's a good, if they have that exactly right yet, we'll just defer judgment on that. But we haven't been talking about special teams, and at the very least, I'd like to not really talk about it post game. That'd be a win, and hell, if we have a big play, which isn't going to happen with Dobbs returning punts, and probably isn't going to happen on kickoff return either, if we don't have our best kickoff returner has no kick returns, or one, Nixon. Hopefully we just don't talk about it. When we start talking about special teams for 6 to 8 minutes, I know we're approaching the end of the episode, which means prediction time. Urbs, what do you got?
I'm going to throw back on my my delusional realist hat, which looks like a Green Bay Soccer hat, but it really is a delusional realist hat. And I think the Green Bay Packers go down to Soldier Field, and it's a tight one. I think it's a 24-21 win.
I agree with the win part, and just a little percentage of this is the old NFL trickeration. Big players go down, it's all over, it's doom and gloom. Vikings are terrible, never going to win a game. They win a couple in a row. They kick the shit out of the Cowboys and the Commanders, whatever. There's a little part of that's in there. I'm going bigger. I'm going 31-20. I think it's more comfortable than last game. We don't need a last play heroics. I think we assert enough dominance on offense to keep them at arm's length, and I think it's a galvanizing win. I also think Detroit loses to Pittsburgh somehow by 45 points and are eliminated from playoffs. We're in, and we're back on easy street. Not really. I think the Lions win, but I do think that wins.
Can I ask you one final question? Is this must win territory? I mean, are we in full panic mode with 2 games left if we lose this game? And I asked you the same question. You said it's not time to panic. We've already said that you get to 11 wins, and after this week, if we don't get to 10, we've got to win out. And like you said, the last team we want to play is the Vikings with nothing to play. But at the end of the year, that's who we have. I think that game is home, correct? The Vikings game is at home? Oh, it's
in
at
Minnesota.
It's at Minnesota, and that's not where we want to play. So is this must win? I mean, I know we gave our predictions. Let's do this in 30 seconds or less, because people always like a less than an hour podcast. But is it panic time? I mean, is this must win? I feel like we do. I mean, I don't think Lamar is who he was. I think he's more injured than what the Ravens are letting you on. So maybe that game's a little bit easier. I don't think 10 games does it. 10 wins doesn't do it in the NFC this year. 10 wins doesn't. I think you got to get to 11, and you may only be a 6 seed at 11, depending on what the Central does, or the North, if you will. What's your thoughts? I mean, is this a must win? I think the Bears lose this week or next week, but what do you think?
It is not must win yet, but it's a huge game. More so, well, it really is for both teams, because the amount of pressure facing the Ravens would feel asphyxiating, because the little interruption, what I like, you look great. You look like a lawyer. Big mock trial practice round tomorrow night. It's not must win yet. There's no must win game until it's must win. So there's no must win, but it's absolutely huge for both teams. This, I think, other than, the game in Lambeau was kind of like a are we there yet game for the Bears. This, even though they won last week against the Browns, this has morphed into a very cute must win for
on the Bears side.
For the Bears as well. This is their first pressure-packed game, because they are also staring down the potential if they lose. I think, let's check real quick. We got time. Everybody's still listening. They are at the 49ers and then home against a Lions team that either A, is still fighting for their lives against the Bears, or B, have shown the willingness to be assholes and go knock a team out of the playoffs.
AKA the Packers. AKA the Packers.
We've seen it firsthand. So it's a huge game. It's the first time that this version of the Bears are facing this type of game that could go in our favor. That is a loud printer. But it's not must win yet. It's not must win until it's must win. Next week is getting as close as you can get to must win.
Right. Let's see how it shakes out. I'm interested to talk to you after the game. I'm real interested in next week's podcast. I really think we're gonna have to dig in, brother. We're gonna have to dig in.
And we don't want to get into desperation mode, and I 100%. It's still that formula holds true though. Packers win one, Lions lose one, we're in. We don't want to be doing that week 18. We don't want to be doing that.
No, I agree. We've been there too many times. Enjoyed the chat, fella. It's good stuff. 61 minutes on one episode.
Yeah, remember, this is going to be the short one, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Later.
With someday we'll figure out how to do a live feed. If it comes down to the that last week 18 matchup, and if the Bears, Lions, Packers, and Vikes are all playing at the same time, let's figure out a live broadcast and just go through the emotions. I'll probably have to have some Miller Lights on that one, but we'll see.
I'll have some Ultra Zero, so that's where I get real wild on those.
Yeah, I should have those so I make it, because that'd be what is that, 200-minute podcast with tack on a celebration or total meltdown at the end. So
wow, there's going to be a couple of meltdowns. We've got to do it. And you know what? Let's try to get a guest speaker. I do have a guest speaker. I think the Steelers. I've got a podcast, the Bees Sports Network out in Pittsburgh. I've got a guy who leads that, and he wants to be on our podcast. He wants to come in and give his perspective from a Pittsburgh Steelers perspective. Might be a good call. We can bring him in. We've got a little pot of money that we could bring him in next week.
If we got a little, if we run into some free time, we could maybe do it. It's just with the Saturday game that makes Saturday tough. We could have him in celebrating the Steelers' victory over the Lions, or, if somehow before that works out, we could do a pump up for the Steelers Lions. But let's do celebration with him possibly.
Yeah, I can set it up. We just have to get. He works third shift. He's out of the Warren area, but he's a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. Joe Bees.
Figured out.
All right, brother.
Later.